Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from SpeechModification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. In this video, we'll look at how to pronounce Toronto, Ontario, like a native speaker. So you might have noticed when I said Toronto, I didn't say the second T sound. We can also say Toronto, and I'm going to talk about both ways that native speakers pronounce the name of this city. Toronto, Ontario is a great example of how the stress of a word will change how we say the sounds in the word. So our letters O, our letters A, our T sounds are all different depending on the stress. So let's talk about what I mean there. In Toronto, the raw syllable is stressed, Toronto. And so this letter O is going to say ah. Often in English, letter O says ah when it's in a stressed syllable. So in a word like on, even though we have a letter O, our first vowel, it's helpful to think of it as maybe AH. Thinking of that ah, that open, unrounded sound can help you. And to get the rhythm of Toronto, I would try saying Ronto, Toronto. That's going to help you remember where that stress is and focus in on that ah sound for the stress syllable. And then you notice that I didn't say Toronto or Toronto. This first O, because it's in an unstressed syllable, is going to be a vowel schwa, and it sounds like Toronto. So I also say this in words like today, tomorrow. I don't say today, tomorrow, but rather today, tomorrow. You can even think of it just as having almost no vowel, Toronto, today, because that vowel is so reduced, that schwa, Toronto. Finally, my last O is a true O sound, and so even though we have three letter O's, we have a schwa, and O for Toronto. Now, when it comes to the T sounds, the first T, any word that starts with a T or a syllable that's stressed syllable that starts with a T, we're going to have what's called an aspirated or true T. Toronto, t. I want to have that puff of air, letting some air out and releasing that. How we think of T if we just say t or T, typical T sound. If I do use the second T in Toronto, it's also going to have that puff of air, Toronto. So when I have an N and a T together, I either, as a native speaker of American English, I'll either leave that T off entirely, like Toronto, or another example, we often will just say, rather than internet, you'll often hear native speakers say internet. So when there's NT together, you can leave off the T, or if you're going to say the T, it doesn't become a flap. It's not Toronto, but Toronto. So if I use that T, I need that puff of air, the same that I have at the beginning of a word, Toronto. You can get comfortable with whatever one you want. In this case, I think I would often say Toronto, but sometimes also Toronto. That's going to just depend on what you're comfortable with. You can also listen to people around you. If you live in Toronto, listen for what other people are saying if you want to be well understood when you're saying the name of this city. Then the province that Toronto is in is Ontario. And here we don't have any option because we have, again, an NT. This time we do always say that T sound Ontario with that puff of air because it starts the stressed syllable. So in a word like hotel or guitar, downtown, when we have stress on that syllable that starts with the T, we use it just like the beginning. So tell, hotel, Ontario, Ontario. We can't leave this one out. Ontario would sound strange. We do have some secondary stress here on this first letter O, so it also has an ah, like on. I'm on Ontario time, for example. Letters AR say the air diphthong in Ontario. So even though it looks like it could be pronounced as R, ario, in this case it's air, ario, terio. Letter I says E, and again our last O says a true O sound. So putting it all together, Toronto, Ontario, or Toronto, Ontario. You probably didn't think there was so much that I could say about a simple city name and province name, but because of the stress patterns, the T's, the O's, the A's. There's a lot going on here where really looking at the letters of these names of this city and province is not really going to give you the information you need for how to pronounce it correctly. I hope it was useful for those of you who already knew how to pronounce this city and province, simply because it teaches us a lot about stress, about how North Americans say the T sounds in words, and it's a useful lesson. So thanks so much for suggesting this or requesting this. If you have a name of a place or any word you would like to have me cover in our Word of the Day series or in our Names and Places playlist, we do have a number of different playlists for specifics like medical terms, food terms, etc. Leave me a comment on this video or any of my videos, and I'll add your word or your name to my list to cover in a future class. I'll be back tomorrow with another Word of the Day, and on Saturday we'll have our live question and answer class. I hope you can join. In that class, you can type your questions in the chat and I'll answer them for you live. Thanks so much for watching this video, for liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting. All of those things have really been helping the channel to grow, and I truly appreciate your support. If you need more help for how we say T sounds, stress patterns, letter O, any of those more details, I do have additional videos here on the channel that can help you, as well as our online courses on speechmodification.com are a great resource to build a strong foundation to pronounce any word you like confidently and easily in American English. I suggest starting with our Sounds of English course, and also you can check out our more advanced courses on speechmodification.com. Thanks so much, everyone. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.